So in this slide, I'm going to talk about like how in the recent time the GPUs has been made parallelized to accommodate more number of the this thing. So Google and the other companies have developed some algorithms around these, and so we are going to look into this. So what practically happened? So right now, when you have the NVIDIA RTX 4009 VRAM GPUs, it cannot take 10 billion parameters LLM to be trained because that thing would require a 40 GBs at least, and this has 24. So this results into like a hardware limit where an entire neural network cannot fit on a single GPU's VRAM. The model must be fractured across multiple devices. The challenge is no longer just processing, it is orchestrating a distributed assembly line without bottlenecking the hardware. So the foundation of a distribution message passing requires explicit coordination. In PyTorch, device communicates via synchronous primitives. Rank identifies the specific GPU, world size defines the total cluster, and tensor are passed sequentially via strict send and receive protocols. The simplest method splits the model layer across devices. GPU 0 calculates the first block of layers, passes the intermediate activation to GPU 1, and so on. Once the final GPU computes the loss, the gradient is passed backward up to the chain to weigh the weight. Knife parallelism severely underutilized hardware because execution is strictly sequential. Only one GPU is active at any given millisecond. The rest sit idle in a bubble. Worse, GPU 0 must hold its cache activation in a memory for the entire cycle while waiting for the backward pass to return. Introduced by Google in 2019, G-Pipe solved the utilization crisis by fracturing the main batch into smaller chunks by feeding micro batches into the pipeline sequentially. Downstream GPUs begin computing before upstream GPUs have finished, allowing parallel execution and drastically reducing pipeline bubbles. Pipeline efficiency is a strict mathematical ratio of idle work to total time. As the number of micro batches increases, the fraction of idle time shrinks towards zero. However, adding more devices expands the initial wait time, requiring even larger batch size division to maintain efficiency. High realizations come at a severe cost because the backward pass for the micro batch 0 cannot begin until all forward passes are complete. The GPU must cache intermediate activation for every single micro batch simultaneously. The peak memory footprint scales linearly with the number of micro batches, risking out of memory crashes. To eliminate G-Pipe's memory plot, PipeDream 2021 introduced the one forward, one backward schedule by immediately executing a backward pass as soon as its corresponding forward pass reaches the end of the pipeline. Upstream devices can instantly flush their cached activation. One forward, one backward abundance batch level synchronization for a continuous flowing state machine. Devices initially preload the pipeline based on their network depth. Once primed, they enter a steady state, alternating strictly between one forward and one backward calculation before finally flushing the remaining gradients in the drain phase. In a steady state, the pipeline clears old activation as fast as it generates new ones because a micro batch cycle internally through the pipeline and returns before the nth subsequent batch begins. The maximum number of activation in flight is strictly equal to the number of GPUs, completely unearthing memory footprint from a micro bench count. Interleveling introduces a severe communication hazard because PyTorch default disk.send is synchronous. It waits for the receiving device to accept the data. If rank 2 tries to forward a micro batch while rank 3 is simultaneously trying to send a gradient backward, both wait infinitely for the other to yield. The deadlock is bypassed by decoupling transmission from execution. Using asynchronous combination, ICE and the sending device deposit the tensor into an independent memory buffer and immediately moves it to the next instruction. Persistence request tracking ensure the Python garbage collector does not delete the buffer before the receiving device is ready. Choosing a schedule is a negotiation between hardware utilization, VRAM capacity, and a code complexity, while G-Pipe scales commute efficiency across large batch. One F1B remains the state-of-the-art baseline by simultaneously applying both idle time and memory limits through asynchronous interleveling. Pipeline parallelism transforms monolithic rollbacks into highly choreographed distributed assembly lines. Mastering first principles like micro-batching and 1F1B interleveling unlocks the foundation for understanding today's most advanced bleeding edge architectures such as Deep 6 dual pipes.